This time I would like to call the regular board meeting to order. Clerk of the board, please call roll.
Arancibia,
Present.
Hall,
Present.
Segura,
Here.
Solis,
Present.
Tarantino,
Here.
Aguirre.
Here. This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on matters posted for the special meeting and in accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3, Section A. The board will provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the meeting before or during consideration of that item. Each person wishing to address an item on the meeting notice in closed session will have 2 minutes to do so.
There are no speakers, Mr. President.
Since there's no further communication, I will recess the meeting for the consideration of the following closed session items as posted on the meeting notice. 1, public employee evaluation appointment transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, public employee discipline dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956. 4, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. We will now adjourn to closed session. This time, I would like to reconvene the regular board meeting. We will now hold the swearing-in ceremony for the new student board representative, Ms. Laila Carriaga. Ms. Laila, can you please stand up and raise your right hand? I, Laila Carriaga, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations. Clerk of the Board, please call roll.
Arancibia,
Present.
Hall,
Present.
Segura,
Here.
Solis,
Present.
Tarantino,
Here.
Aguirre,
Here.
Carriaga. Here.
We will now hold a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student rep, Ms. Laila Carriaga.
Place your right hand on your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting to discuss the following issues. 1, public employee evaluation appointment transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 2, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reclassification, reassignment, resignation, transfer, Government Code Section 54957. 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D, of Government Code Section 54956.9. And 4, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took the following action. Moved by Arancibia, seconded by Tarantino, to approve the appointment of Robert Hughes as Director of Human Resources. With a vote of Arancibia, yes. Hall, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Arancibia, seconded by Segura, to approve the appointment of Susan Park as Chief Compliance Officer. With a vote of Arancibia, yes. Hall, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Segura, seconded by Arancibia, to approve the suspension and remediation settlement agreement with one classified employee. With a vote of Arancibia, yes. Hall, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. Moved by Arancibia, seconded by Tarantino, to approve the suspension settlement agreement with one certificated employee. With a vote of Arancibia, yes. Hall, yes. Segura, yes. Solis, yes. Tarantino, yes. This time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the July 11th, 2022 regular board meeting, with the change that the board will consider board agenda item R1 before public communication. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Carriaga,
Yes.
Arancibia,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Segura,
Yes.
Solis,
Yes.
Tarantino.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we will now have a message from our superintendent, Dr. Moises Aguirre.
Thank you, President Solis. First, I wanted to offer a public service announcement, a friendly reminder that our student board member, Ms. Carriaga, is a student. In the past, we have members of the public who have addressed her as something other than a student, an adult. So I just wanted to make sure that was a point of information that I shared with our community, and we definitely appreciate Ms. Carriaga being here as our student representative. So thank you and welcome aboard. Secondly, we will be issuing a guidance to our community regarding our next iteration of what happens with COVID once we return to the start of school. So just wanted to share briefly and generally that we will be in a situation where we'll be strongly encouraging face masks, save for some specific instances that will be shared out. So our COVID team will be sending out a message to our staff and our community to ensure that we follow all Cal OSHA guidelines, as well as the guidance that's being shared with our community from agencies such as County Office of Education and other agencies as well. So please be on the lookout for that, that information. And thirdly, this evening I wanted to ask, we have a visitor, the Honorable State Board member, Dr. Francisco Escobedo. As we're going through COVID last year, a number of us as district leadership participated in a partnership with San Diego State's National Center for Urban School Transformation. And so with that, I would like to cede my time to Dr. Escobedo from NCAST.
Thank you. President Solis, members of the board, and Dr. Aguirre, thank you for allowing me to spend a few moments of your time. More than ever, this nation needs district leaders who can demonstrate the ability to change, right? To change and dismantle systems that creates perhaps the inability for some students to improve drastically in organizations. And you have 4 district leaders that embark about 2 years ago. The program actually was 10 months because of COVID. For obvious reasons, it took longer. But during this time, your leaders learned about envisioning equity and excellence here at Sweetwater. How can we look at our system in a different way so all African Americans and Latinos and Asian and every child can exceed? Ethnicity shouldn't matter, zip code shouldn't matter. And then we focus on building coherent systems that promote equity and excellence, and how to create cultures that can advance that. And how do we support leaders as well as teachers in advancing teaching practices for all students. And so I'd like to take this moment to congratulate these 4 amazing leaders in your district for really during probably the most challenging times that they'll ever, hopefully ever see in their career, and going through with it with amazing grace and focus. And so I would like to congratulate Dr. Vernon Moore, Dr. Daniel Winters, Dr. Ana Maria Alvarez, and Dr. Moises Aguirre, man who leads by example.
Slow motion.
So with that, I did want to, again, extend our gratitude to San Diego State and National Center for Urban School Transformation for continuing to support the development, the ongoing development of our district's leadership as we seek to continue to build coherent systems to support all of our learners, regardless of where they may be. I think it's something that I would like for us to keep that focus, is our organization as a learning organization to continue to improve, to support all the stakeholders we serve, primarily our students, but our families and our communities. So with that, thank you, Dr. Escobar.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. I think a couple of board members might want to say a little something
Yes,
before you
I
go.
just wanted to not let him escape and without acknowledging. I know you're not over at Chula anymore. You know, you've served a lot of time at board meetings, that's for sure. But I just wanted to say thank you for congratulations on your becoming a state board member. That is a huge honor, and you represent us, you know, well, for sure. And I'm so proud of you and all you've done for the South Bay community and for the students for your lifetime. So I just truly appreciate that. I've known you a while. My wife actually, you know my wife, and she worked for you. So I just wanted just to acknowledge that, and thank you for bringing these out to our dedicated administrators.
Thank you. Dr. Arancibia?
No, I think the commitment to the community, Frankie and I have known, he was my first principal when I was a teacher. We've known each other forever, you know, and he's been like a tío, big brother. And, you know, your commitment to the South Bay, it's not only reflected by your service that you've done at the jobs that we've had, but like this, right? Because it's the commitment to keep giving back, to making sure that we're consistently improving and we're consistently accountable, right? And I think that's the most, I guess that's the biggest kind of compliment I could give to an educational leader, that you have been consistent about it, that you've made it happen in different places, but always in the South Bay, you know? And that's really, really a tell for me, and I want to say thank you for everything that you've done for us.
I just want to share that South Bay for me is la familia, you know, and I truly love South Bay. My kids grew up in South Bay, went to Bonita High School, and, you know, anything I can do, and, you know, I applaud you, the board, who, you know, going out of this real difficult time, and, you know, we need to hit that learning loss head on. And I know you guys have the will and commitment to do that in any way we can be of service. Not only do you have the backing of San Diego State, but you will have the backing of the state of California as well. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Escobedo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
We're good?
Okay. All right, we will now have a report from Student Board Representative, Ms. Laila Carriaga.
Hi, I do not have a report from the AZ members as it is summer, but I would just like to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Laila Carriaga. I'm the new representative for the district, the student representative for the district. And I'm excited to be working with you all, in addition to servicing my community the best that I can. And thank you for this opportunity very much.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move the board agenda item R1, resolution to establish a special tax levy for the CFDs, which includes a staff report. Dr. Aguirre?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, President Solis, for this item. I will ask Dr. Salkel to introduce our speaker.
Good evening, President Solis, Board Trustees, Dr. Aguirre, Cabinet, and Community. This evening we'll be presenting this item. It is the special tax levy item related to the 21 community facility districts that the district has. And primarily those funds are used for facility improvements throughout the district based on a cost allocation model that is the number of students per CFD. This is an annual administrative process that we go throughout the year, working with our consultant, looking at our estimated actuals, looking at our budgets, and it culminates to this point here where we bring forward the resolution that we are to present as a district to the County of San Diego by August 10th in order to levy the special tax. We do also go through a process where we do advertise and notice this particular meeting. We brought that forward to the Star News at the end of May, on May 24th or May 20th, and then also on June 24th. So we have Barbara Hale Carter here with the Special District Financing and Administration. She helps us facilitate the analysis, the methodology, and ultimately the calculation that we're bringing forward to the board. So she'll be explaining to here shortly in the presentation that you have in your packet, the basis of how we derive these numbers. And so I'll hand over to Ms. Hale Carter.
Thank you, Dr. Salkeld. It's nice to see the board, Superintendent. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Before we start the slide, I'm going to just take a second to let you remember how we got here. After the completion of a 31-year internal review, all the revenue and expenditures since the formation of the CFDs, and the implementation and review of a cost allocation plan which directs how projects are determined to be funded through the CFDs, and how such expenditures are allocated among the CFDs, both of which were reviewed by legal counsel and an outside management firm, provides us with the calculation and the status of funding the obligations of the CFDs that will be presented.
Could you kind of point the mic to your mouth a little bit more so that the sound picks up? Thank you.
Yeah, and I've got my hearing aids on, and I'm having just a little bit of a difficulty. Thank you.
How does that sound? There you go. Perfect. It's difficult with a mask, and it's difficult when you stand here. I can't quite tell how loud I am. So please just make a motion if I seem to fade.
Yeah, continue.
Perfect.
Ms. Hale Carter, you can, as a speaker, you can take off the mask,
Yeah, if that helps you.
if that helps.
There you go.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. The first three slides are a general overview. The first slide is the administrative cycle, which is represented here and provides the illustration that staff works year-round on a variety of elements to adhere to statutory and administrative requirements of the CFDs. If you have any questions about any of the items that are shown, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you. This second overview slide provides the calculation of the original tax rates. This slide also provides the cost per middle school and high school seat for one dwelling unit. Those costs were updated in 2022, and as your facilities department can attest, construction costs have increased greatly. One dwelling unit of average size within your district impacts the facilities department $51,398 on a 7/12 basis. The bottom section of the slide provides an analysis to overview the difference in a CFD that would have been formed with or without the 2% escalator. The left section provides you with the terms of the tax with the 2% escalator, and I'm just going to use the middle row as a talking point. So if we formed a CFD today with a term of 30 years and allowed the tax to escalate by 2%, which the district has chosen to do, the initial levy would be $2,702 if, in fact, the CFD could fund 100% of its impact. The average rate would be $3,654. I apologize, you can't see the next section, but if you did not have an escalator, the rate for all 30 years would be $3,392. I'm going to try to take a second to compare that to CFD number 1. For CFD number 1, if you were a dwelling unit just over 2,000 square feet, for fiscal year 22-23 as your first year of taxation, you would be funding about 57% of this impact. Taking into account that CFD number 1 is currently levied and is still projected to be requested to be levied at 98.04% of the maximum, it lowers it slightly to 56%. I make this point just to be very clear that the CFDs do not fund their complete obligation. This is a great slide. It's an overview. It shows all the CFDs. It provides the taxable dwelling units from 21-22. It provides the projected 22-23. And I want to note that your building permit cutoff, or what tells us as administrators that this dwelling unit is going to be charged for fiscal year 22-23, is June 30th. So in order for staff and I to prepare for tonight, we use an April 1 cutoff so that we can get the numbers in front of you. Since this happened, or since this data has been put together, we've had an additional 25 dwelling units, nothing substantial, but I would just want to let you know that this isn't exactly all, that's why it says projected 22-23. So if we look at the differences, you can see that 1,021 dwelling units have ended the term of the tax. Remember a couple slides back when we looked at the term of the tax either being 25 years or 30 years or 35 years? From last year to this year, over 1,000 dwelling units will no longer be levied. We had one project. It's an affordable housing project in CFD 18, come in and prepay their tax. And so the new dwelling units of 668 actually includes that 200. So we're looking at 468 dwelling units coming on to the levy for the first time in fiscal year 22-23. And if I can take just a second, the 1,021 dwelling units that are termed out had an approximate revenue of $848,000. The addition of 468 dwelling units will bring in a roughly $465,000. So the levy for the coming year will be lower. This slide is prepared to allow you to see what's coming up in the next parts of the presentation, where I'll be moving much quicker. The top boxes speak to the evaluation of new construction, and it's evaluated in capacity or seats. This is done because it allows me to take into account the time value of money. We've had CFDs that were formed in 1986. They've paid for seats. They get the value of those seats by doing this accounting in a seat manner, if that makes sense. The middle boxes talk about evaluating the capital projects that extend the useful life or modernization. And that again will be spoke about in detail, but it's based on the dwelling units in a CFD multiplied by the student generation rate, so we know the students coming from those CFDs, and the cost is also determined through work I do with the facilities department. And then finally, we look at the unfunded obligation in new seats, the unfunded obligation in modernization, to help us evaluate what the taxes should be for the 22-23 fiscal year. Each year I try to put an example. Often I use some of the larger CFDs. This year we decided to use CFD 9B, which is going to take me just a moment for everyone to understand. CFD 9, the boundaries of 9A and 9B, are within the city of San Diego. A portion is served by Chula Vista Elementary, and a portion is served by San Ysidro. 9B provides grades 7-8 to the Chula Vista Elementary District, and 9A provides grades 7-12 to the entire boundaries, since San Ysidro is providing grades 7-8 to their students. So this shows us how students are determined, tells the type of dwelling unit, student generation rates, And it notes that there's 112 projected middle school students, and as it should be, 0 high school students, because this CFD only funds middle school. Again, I used an example of a middle school. This is how we determine the number of seats that have been funded. We have paid and outstanding. To fund Eastlake Middle School, we've used bond proceeds and interest earned on those bond proceeds. We've used pay-go monies. And if you remember, pay-go is money that during any fiscal year, when we levy the taxes, after we pay debt service and administration, there's an amount left for additional facilities, and we've termed that pay-go. Shows the total that's funded, the percent that's funded, and the percent that's outstanding, and equated those into actual seats. This slide gives you an overview of all the CFDs following the last 2 slides. So columns 2 and 3 provide what was provided to you in slide 6 for 9B, where you can see the 112 and the 0. Now we've done it for each of the CFDs, so you can see the projected middle school students and the projected high school students by CFD. The next 2 columns, column 4 and 5, provide you with the projected funded seats for both middle school and high school. And I want to take a second, because you may wonder, why is she saying projected? I'm saying projected because it's not only what we've already paid for, but what we're projecting to be paid for with the levy I'm about to move forward in 22-23. And then finally, columns 6 and 7 show you the math of the unfunded seats, and the final column takes those unfunded seats times the cost per seat that we were already shown in an earlier slide. We're going to go through the same quick methodology for funding modernization projects. Working with the facilities department, we were provided with a total cost estimate for middle and high school. We reduced that by non-reoccurring costs. You wouldn't have to pay for the site again. You don't have to do utilities. Things that shouldn't be a repeated cost are removed. We come out with a net facilities cost, and we use a state factor of 50% for modernization projects. We have an estimated cost. We divide it by the design capacity, and we have calculated the cost per student for modernization projects. Here again, I've used example 9B to show the math. The top portion is exactly as it was shown in the previous slide, with the number of dwelling units, the number of middle and high school students. The middle of this slide, this middle section, shows the cost per student to extend the useful life at the middle and high school level, and it calculates the obligation of CFD 9B for modernization projects. The bottom section of the slide provides you with an amount of money that's been funded from CFD 9B for modernization projects. The math of the difference shows you the unfunded obligation for CFD 9B. This next slide, similar to the previous slide, just shows every CFD for modernization projects. So again, it shows you the middle and high school students. It has taken those students, multiplied them by the cost per middle and high school student, and provided you with the capital projects that extend the useful life obligation in total. I've added this column over here, obligation per dwelling unit. And it's to show you that the obligation per dwelling unit for modernization projects is not the same for every CFD, because each one of your CFDs has a different mix of unit types. You have CFDs that are all single-family detached with a student generation rate of X. You have CFDs that have multifamily attached, single-family attached. Each of those dwelling units have a different type of dwelling unit, has a different student generation rate. This slide provides us with the remaining obligation by column 2, taking the information that was provided on the previous slide. I keep saying that. I should have written down the slide numbers. I apologize. And reducing it by the amount of funding per CFD that's been expended on modernization projects. Final column shows you the remaining obligation by CFD for projects that extend the useful life. Earlier, I spoke to the fact that these numbers are projected. The word projected in the top portion of this slide is just referring to estimated actuals that soon will become actuals. And then the bottom portion is the budget for fiscal year 22-23. Slide 14 adds together the unfunded seat obligation and the unfunded modernization obligation to determine a total outstanding obligation as of June 30, 2023 by CFD. This slide verifies the need for the special taxes. It shows that the outstanding obligation as of June 30, 2023, reduced by the fund balance in each one of the CFDs, provides us with a remaining funding obligation. Footnoted is CFD number 2. All of the dwelling units within CFD number 2 ended their obligation. They ended the term of their tax, I believe back in 1718. The analysis that we take is to look at whether or not a CFD has funded their obligation or whether the CFD has reached the term of the tax. So you can see here by CFD the percentage that the CFD has developed and whether or not they have a remaining term of the special tax that's known. Until every dwelling unit gets issued a building permit, I don't know the last year of the levy for a CFD because the term of the tax starts the first year that it's levied as a developed piece of property. And as you can see, none of the CFDs except CFD 2 funded the new construction obligation. And once it did that, we stopped escalating the special tax for CFD number 2. And none of the CFDs have funded the obligation for modernization projects. This slide overviews staff's recommendations for the 22-23 special tax rates. We're using the same criteria that we've used for several years. If a CFD has fully funded their new construction obligation, no indexing would be recommended to apply to that CFD. We don't have any CFDs that meet that criteria for the 22-23 levy. And secondly, the recommendation is that if they have not fully funded their new construction obligation, to apply the 2% escalator to the current tax rates. As Jenny mentioned, the County of San Diego requires a resolution to be adopted annually, and that's why we're here this evening. The deadline for application and resubmittal of any rejected charges is August 10th, 2022. And the resolution before you tonight has multiple purposes. First is to establish the maximum tax rate for properties that the first fiscal year of the levy is fiscal year 22-23, and for existing developed properties which were taxed in a previous year. Secondly, is to establish the actual special tax as a percentage of the maximum rate to be levied. I know it's a lot to take in, and I do appreciate your patience me walking through it. If you have any questions this evening, I would love to answer them if I'm able. And if you have questions later on, you can always get back to staff and they can circle back to me.
Thank you, Ms. Hale Carter. Any comments from the public? No. Questions or comments from the board? Nope. All right. Oh, Dr. Aguirre?
Thank you, President Solis. Just as a point of clarification, Ms. Barbara Hale Carter, can you clarify if these are part of the disclosures when somebody actually purchases a property, this information?
Yes, a new property owner is told about the CFD two ways. One, the disclosure that they must sign when they first enter into a contract, not those 40,000 papers you sign at closing. And secondly, it's recorded on your lien. So when you get your title report, it shows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, if there's no questions or comments, entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
This is the point of the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. Pursuant to board bylaw, the board may limit the time for public comment on any single topic to 20 minutes per topic. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on or respond to matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matter to the superintendent's office for review and report. Speakers shall refrain from using profanity and shall speak in a respectful manner. Thank you for your cooperation.
The first speaker is Kathleen Cheers.
Good evening. I would like to recognize CPH students, parents, community, and staff efforts to bring equity and fiscal responsibility to their deserving campus. It is clear, based on the pics, CPH is disintegrating before its community's eyes. Students left to be educated in third world country conditions. Why? Are they not worthy? The why is because the district, Mr. Segura, and this board chose to turn a blind eye. Our tax dollars paid Jacobs for a master plan of all sites, identifying the poor conditions. We were told it was a living document to be updated on a yearly basis. First failure. Whose responsibility is it to identify and repair frayed electrical wiring, trash, holes, crumbling fascia, and on and on? Where are the preventative inspections and maintenance? Second failure. The CPH community being told a major overhaul for its educational facility is on the horizon. How about this? Why don't you do what we did at Montgomery? We, the parents and community, were part of the process from start to finish. End result, two new two-story modern classroom buildings, new library, new admin, parent center, gym, field, so much more. I know your answer. You plan to. Trustee Segura, why didn't you raise these conditions? Surely you saw the crumbling campus. This is your community school. I could continue with the failures, but this board and I both know they are deaf, dumb, and blind when it comes to listening to the taxpaying community, until and unless the press becomes involved. Then you deploy the maintenance trucks, break out the paint, get the weed whackers humming, and expect us to applaud. Applaud what? Doing your job? Why do we have to point out your failures? You don't have eyes, or you just don't care? You sit here meeting after meeting, patting yourselves on the back, congratulating each other as if you are serving us. Truth be told, only one of you cares enough to research the issues. That, Mr. Tarantino. Sweetwater is an educational institution, not a pre-college training camp for the NFL, NBA, swim team, or MLB. You are losing students because parents recognize these students and teachers deserve modern classrooms, science labs, working restrooms, updated PE showers, lockers, and more. I urge you to research the grand jury investigation into Mar Vista High gym back in 2003. Maddie Adato signed those papers. Your failure to follow bond language, crumbling campus, votes and disinterest in providing our own teaching staff with safe working conditions have not been difficult to document. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Katina Rondow.
Good evening, Katina Ranja. I'm speaking as an individual. I'd like to address the huge concern I had as a SPED teacher in this district regarding our SPED services. We do not have enough teachers. For whatever reason, we have recently posted, that was a very late posting, 24 or 25 SPED positions. Those are typically done in May. We've got those positions covered. However, they were just posted recently. The closing date is tomorrow. And then I believe this Thursday, the 12th and the 14th. I know of one well-qualified teacher that applied because I did refer her to our district. She's an awesome teacher, experienced, et cetera, And what occurred was, I guess she just never got a call back. And she had also applied to San Diego City. They offered her a $10,000 bonus. She's got like excellent benefits where she and her family don't have to pay anything at all. And so she's going with them. That's one teacher we've lost. Who is going to cover all of these classes? There's the sub shortage. I know Mr. Aguirre can't do it because, again, he's not credentialed and as an administrator or a teacher, so he's not going to step in and do it. He's the top person of this whole entire district. Who will cover these classes? SPED students and their families deserve to know that they are a priority, that they deserve the equity, that they will be served, and their full IEP will be implemented on the first day of school. Often substitutes are not SPED trained, experienced, or even credentialed. They would be an anomaly in this job market, as all those folks are going to have jobs. We need to recruit and, more importantly, retain our SPED teachers. I have colleagues that have left the SPED field within my own district. They left and went and got and earned a general education credential. But they just don't feel supported. It just feels like so overwhelming. The late posting seems as if this was all just an afterthought. Last school year, my department was impacted because there was a need for SPED teachers, and they pulled these SPED teachers from our department to go and serve in classrooms that still needed SPED teachers. And that was like in fall break. They didn't even start those positions till fall break. So how long is it going to take us to get teachers in there? We risk being sued by many families because we are not going to fully implement that IEP, that they are not being served by fully credentialed teachers. I ask that we just do our absolute best to recruit, retain, fund, and support our SPED program so that we can serve these students, because according to the law, they must be given a free and appropriate public education. We call it FAPE. And I don't believe it's appropriate if you're just going to put a substitute in there from July into October. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Noemi Obrego.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Noemi Obrego. I have one child here in East Lake Middle. And I just want to say that I hope that the masking doesn't come back on. She barely volunteered to unmask herself, and she was feeling very pressured. And I can tell you from experience that I feel that a lot of these kids are feeling very, very unworthy. With defacing themselves or dehumanizing them by putting a mask on their face. And a lot of them have become very depressed. And that's just from knowing my own child. So I just urge you to not have that again, or say highly recommend, because, you know, we are United States citizens and we have an inalienable rights to it's supposed to be at least, But, you know, our governor has been violating those rights, and we are supposedly still in the state of emergency, which is not right. But I just urge you to try to get more help with them with other sorts of programs also, like after-school programs, because they might fall into hands of, you know, adults that don't necessarily have the best interests at hand. Like the old school that we used to go to, we were under a program that would help with after-school activities, and that was like a small portion, but we all kind of pitched in order for them to do activities that they would like. She doesn't necessarily like the activities right now, so it's just kind of hard because she liked art, and I don't think that's provided at this moment. But I just urge you to try to pay attention to how a lot of the, I don't know biologically right now, but my daughter's 13. So in her case, she gets very depressed, and that can lead into something really severe in the future. Just to call to attention for you guys to know that a lot of these children also in San Diego Unified School District haven't returned. So their rates in schooling has also dramatically dropped. And that's what I assume that would happen if this keeps on lingering on with these children. I don't have a 13-year-old male, but I would assume that they have some other sort of psychological differences there. But anyway, I just wanted to just call that to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further speakers?
Yeah, thank you.
Clerk of the Board, will you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items are pulled. F3 by staff.
We have a problem. We have people who said they filled out cards.
Yes, they're for item M1. We'll do that when that item is taken up. Thank you. Item F3 by staff. Item F7 by the public. Item M1 by Mr. Segura and the public.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion
Second?
and a second.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, F3, would like to start us off? Mr. Segura?
Sure, I'll go. Mine will be brief. First of all, I'd like to congratulate and welcome Ms. Carriaga. I knew I was going to butcher it. Carriaga, thank you. I want to welcome you, and I know you're going to provide a lot of great input over your year here, and I just look forward to working with you and hearing what you bring to the board and to the public and the students' voices that you represent. So welcome. And then I would like to, I can't believe we're already going to start another school year here in a few weeks. And I just hope that the students got a nice break, and as well as all the staff members. And I know a few of them have that I've seen on Facebook that really had a good time. And I'm so glad for it, because you very, very much deserved it. And I just look forward to this next school year. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Anybody else? Mr. Tarantino?
Thank you, President Solis. I'd like to congratulate Cesar Gamez, who is a CTE teacher at Castle Park High School, and he was presented the Innovation in Education Award by the San Diego Classroom of the Future Foundation. Mr. Gamez was named the Innovative Educator for 2022 in his area, and he's come and spoke to us before the board, and he's very involved in his craft and provides a lot of mentoring as well as instruction for his students. And so congratulations, Cesar, on this award. Also, congratulations to Bonita Vista High student Ashley Escamilla for winning the 2022 Congressional Art Competition. Her contribution entitled Diversidad y Comunidad is hanging in the U.S. Capitol. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarantino. Vice President Hall?
Thank you.
She was having internet issues and was on her phone, so
There she is.
she should be coming back. There you go.
Sorry, something
All right.
happened, I don't know what, but I lost connection for a minute. And I want to welcome our new student board member as well. You follow in the footsteps of some really dynamic young people that have brought a student voice to our board and our decision-making process. So I welcome you, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the future. I think that's very important. And I want to offer to be available to you anytime you have questions or would like to hear from our different areas that here at your service as well. All of us, I'm sure, would be ready and willing to help and be there for you. I also wanted to thank our Imperial Beach City Council member, Matthew Leyva Gonzalez, who was very instrumental in putting together a job fair for students at Mar Vista High this past May. I neglected to thank him at our last meeting, so I wanted to make sure I did that before we finished this meeting. But it was really well received. It was about all the trades that are available to students, that they can have a career and really a way to earn a living wage, right, without a 4-year degree. I think many people with 4 degrees are returning into the trades because of the opportunities presented there. But our students had the ability to go to this job fair and hear directly what they could do should they make a decision to enter the trades right out of high school. So I thought that was wonderful, and it was very well attended. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Dr. Arancibia?
I just would like to say to everyone, I hope you had a restful break. I know it's the beginning of the semester, and I know that everyone is preparing to come back. And I really applaud everyone for the efforts that they've made with regards to being flexible and continuing to work in an environment that isn't always consistent with what we want to be, where we want to be at after 2 years, masking and otherwise. I just want to thank the teachers for all the efforts they put in for the last year, and I wish you well in this year. We're here to support you. The same thing goes for classified professionals, and the same thing goes for the administration. I encourage you. I want to wish you good luck this coming year, and thank you for each one of your efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Arancibia. Same here. Just want to say thank you to all our staff members, all the district office staff for everything that you guys do, and hope you guys had a good restful break and ready for the next school year. Thank you for what you do. All right, we're going to move on to F7, and that was pulled by the public.
Yes, I have one speaker, Katina Randau.
Hello. Again, as an individual, earlier I addressed the board. I spoke of us doing our part, what's best for these students needing the special education services. I noticed on this agenda item there are, costs related to settling to families when we don't do what's best, and that's tens of thousands of dollars. I'd like for every board member to go back and reflect on just last year. How much did we pay out to SPED, just to settle SPED issues? I know that it has nothing to do with our admin, because I know that the administration, they definitely put in their PARs. Everyone wants their people in place. I don't think it has anything to do with our director. I recall recently needing help with fundamental students and needing resources, and I'm asking, where's my resource teacher? And there is no TOSA. There was no program manager. There's no program. Michelle has very limited staff, as I understood it. And just know that your teachers are doing their best. Even within my department, many SPED teachers worked without pay for an entire year. We kept bringing it up over and over and over to our, I guess the people that supervise us, Dr. Fulcher and Dr. Moore. They understood that we definitely were working and serving these kids even though we weren't being paid to do so. We were given equivalent caseloads to a general ed teacher, and yet where do you find the time and day? Well, you just do it for free because they're not actually paying us to do it. every student in our program receives 1 half-hour meeting a week. And I kept bringing up, like, well, you can't give us 50 students because those special education students on our caseload deserve, and according to the law in their IEP, they deserve 60 minutes. And I was just ignored repeatedly. We were ignored repeatedly, but nonetheless, we serve the students. I just want to know what's going to happen this year to the SPED students that don't have the SPED teachers in place. One of the scenarios could be that they are going to be put in a classroom. There's not going to be a special education teacher. They may fail, and then they're going to be pushed into our program. Again, a 6-hour day, and then they may be pushed into a 30-minute, or what I should say, 1 hour a week meeting, and that's all they're going to get because we have closed. They are closing the learning centers. I think technically they're closing. They are closed to only those that are already in it, so we can't even refer kids that need more time to the learning centers. All kids get a 6-hour day. For anybody that's listening, most kids get a 6-hour day, and if that doesn't quite work, then the next best thing might be options or Palomar, but they might not always qualify for those types of schools. And so then, well, what's better than, okay, well, maybe we'll put them in a learning center. They'll get 2 hours a day. And then that's beneath that is our program, half an hour, 1 30-minute meeting a week. And so then what will happen is we're going to not serve these kids because maybe they don't have the right teachers in place. And then they're going to get into our program, and we're going to do the best we can with 1 hour a week. That's all we have for them is 1 hour a week. And so I just urge you guys, again, go back and look. How much have we spent settling special education lawsuits? Do the math, and we can do better. We need to support special education, its program, its teachers, its directors, from the top down. Support it as if it were athletics, an athletic program. A field that you guys want, something, support it like that, like with vigor. Thank you for your time.
No further speakers.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Motion to approve?
I have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Carriaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, move on to M1, as pulled by the public and by Mr. Segura. Is that correct?
Yes, the first speaker is Howard Bannister.
Thank you. My name's Howard Bannister. I'm a special education teacher and head football coach at Chula Vista High School. Thank you for you guys' time. I know I'm here to support your approval of this agenda item and the upgrades for facilities. I know we've already heard a few members talk about, facilities versus sports. And I don't think it's either or. I think it's both, and you can't do them all at the same time. Castle Park, Chula Vista, Mar Vista, and Southwest need your help. It needs to get done. It's needed to be done, and I'm glad that you guys are moving forward with this. There's a lot of reasons why we should do it. One, going on the facilities issue, I teach in the 100 building at Chula Vista High School, probably the oldest building in the entire district. Yes, it needs help. Yes, I have my challenges teaching in it, but I've never had a student tear an ACL walking into that classroom. Sports facilities are also classrooms. I think that's oftentimes overlooked. I'm here today with one of my fellow coaches and PE teacher, a PE teacher as well, Scott Quinlan. It's hard to look out. I'll be in the 1800 building sometimes looking out on the field and seeing him take kids on walkers and in wheelchairs around a dirt track that's uneven, and it's hard on those kids to get that done. They deserve the same kind of facilities that everyone else is. Everyone thinks it's just sports. It's also a classroom for those classes. And the real reason for me is as a coach, it's injuries. Injuries are a real threat. We've had myself, I've experienced 4 season-ending injuries since 2017, which were non-contact, which means that they were literally just running on the field, fell into a small divot or a change in elevation, and it created an issue that ended their season, whether it be a knee, an ankle, or something else. We had a home game in 2018 versus La Jolla Country Day that was delayed. Almost didn't play the game because the visiting team refused to play until our facilities folks came out and put sand into the uneven areas on the field because they would not allow their players to play on that field. Our field is also so bad that the only sport using that facility at our school is football. We're the only ones brave enough to use it. Everyone else uses the side fields off of Fifth Avenue. And lastly, it's time. It's time. There's 4 grass fields left in the entire county. They're all on the west side of the 805. And our kids deserve the same safe facilities that the Eastside School kids have as well. I know I've been personally critical of you guys in the past to get this done, but I applaud you now for moving forward with this to get it done, and I hope we can do it for all the kids. They deserve the same as everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilee Joe? I'm sorry, Joy.
Is it okay to remove the mask while I talk? I'm Marilee Joy. My son is currently a varsity football player with Coach Bannister. My son has actually gotten hurt on the field last year. So I'm asking you guys, I'm also supporting you guys as well for helping us getting this pushed forward. I was currently on KUSI News. I don't know if you guys seen it. I was the one. We want our sons and all of our kids to be safe on the fields. Like, we talk about lawsuits with the special ed. What about a lawsuit if a kid's hurt on the field? That could be just as damaging as a lawsuit somewhere else. So we're asking for our kids to be able to be safe, to be able to play somewhere safe. My son gets nervous every time he goes out just to practice. So we're just asking for all of the kids to have fields that are safe, just like the other schools do. It's not fair. My son and the other kids, and also one of the parents that are right here, I believe her son was hurt also last year. I almost fell last year. I asked you guys to just take a walk on the field and just run across it and tell me if you don't lose your balance or you don't fall. Then make your decision. But I'm asking you to please just keep in mind that my sons and their sons and everybody else's kids and the future kids, they need to be safe. Because if it was your children or somebody else's children, we want all of our children to be safe. So it's important, we need it, it's time, and thank you for supporting us.
Thank you.
Kathleen Cheers?
In reviewing this agenda item, a few questions, concerns raised my ire. I would encourage all to Google search the bond language of BB, O, and DD. It all reads the same. We have voted in $1 billion, that's with a B, as in boy, $281 million in taxes, state matching funds included. So you tell me, where's the beef? The only reason this board is now indicating they are prepared to throw a minuscule amount of money to classrooms and buildings is because they are feeling the heat of negative press. Then there is the $28 million you are using of DD bond dollars to negate the L Street debt. That does not fall under any criteria of the bond language. With no disrespect meant to Ms. Carbuccia or any other legal counsel this board may have on hand to respond, you read to me where in the DD language it identifies L Street debt payoff as a legal use. Remember, we are a meat and potatoes community. Don't give me a bunch of legal BS. Simply pull up the bond language and point it out. Stop, think of what that $28 million as a new classroom building would serve. This board is preoccupied with building Taj Mahals, honoring their legacy. But au contraire, it is the Securities and Exchange Commission investigation. It is the fact you refused to do a forensic audit when you first took office after your predecessors borrowed top BB and O monies, instead wanting to turn a blind eye. It is the deficit you refused to recognize for years. It is the fact you have allowed the campuses of Granger, Mar Vista Academy to deteriorate, and now added to the list is the fact that a heroic CPH community stood up and said, no, we are not accepting the reprehensible conditions you expect our students and teachers to exist in every day. That, board members, is your legacy. I agree sports is important, but so is education. You can do both, as the coach from Chula Vista High School indicated. Legality is important. Lack of it brought others and more down before you. Neighbors, take a couple minutes to review your tax bill. Are you prepared to add more of your hard-earned money to the payment due? In the words of Angela Bassett, buckle up, Buttercup. Sweetwater is rumored to be preparing to ask for yet another bond. And renters, those costs will be funneled down to you as rent increases. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Nick Marinovich?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm having a deja vu looking at this item. When I first started with the school district back in 2005, there was a controversy over building the gym at Mar Vista High School when there were all these other needs with bond money. So I look at this item, and I guess if there's one concept I want the board to think about is process matters. And what's important, and if you're going to be spending $100 million, it's step one, and this is really a set of questions. Have you done a comprehensive facility condition assessment, soup to nuts, on every damn building in the district, to determine what it needs, whether it should be torn down, and what it would cost before you commit to a specific project list? Secondly, L Street defeasance, as Kathleen Cheers mentioned. I think I might have found a clue. Maybe most, and I'll myself too, is that within the bond project list is a phrase, consolidate district operation by centralizing administrative programs and offices at single site location. That's a district office, okay? Third item, where was the facility subcommittee in developing this project list? They barely meet. They barely meet. That's not what they're supposed to do, or that was envisioned when that committee was founded. Another question, where is the Bond Oversight Committee, MIA, on this, and the oversight function? Not blaming totally the committee, because you totally discouraged them from bond oversight. Question, what was the real, recent public input on what the project list should be? I don't think it's occurred. Finally, or second to final, where was the analysis post-pandemic on what is the education plan for this district? Are we going to be doing things differently that would impact our facilities? I don't see any analysis. And sort of in conclusion, can you go before the public and say, you know what, you gave us $404 million, we're going to spend the first $100 million, half is going to be on athletic facilities. Nothing wrong with athletic facilities. But, when you vote, you don't just vote for athletic facilities and hear the very touching stories by problems. It's the whole public as students who go to the bathroom and can hardly stand it. Okay? And you make your priority these stadiums. I don't get it. You've lost touch with reality, just like the board, in some ways, the board that preceded you. And I just, in closing, I just want to say, your legacy on this board will be how you handle the spending the bond money in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
All right, questions or comments from the board?
So I pulled it, Mr.
Sorry.
President.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
okay.
Schroeder. Yes, go
No
ahead.
problem. I'm speaking in full support of this, the general obligation bonds, the 2022 project list. I see there are the stadiums, just the 4 stadiums that desperately need modernization, and we've been working on these for passing consultant agreements here for probably 6, 7, 8 months, if not longer, in anticipation of this. There are site improvements at Bonita. There are on the list. There's site improvements at Castle as well. For Measure DD and the Prop O, there's site improvements at Granger, at Mar Vista, and then there's some roof and HVAC projects. But and it's fully allowed. And I read the full text of Measure DD, and under Section 3 bond project list on Category 8, it says repair, replace natural synthetic fields and associated facilities and scoreboards for safety and compliance. And that holds true for all the schools that are on this list for the athletic modernization, and it's way overdue. And I wish my plan was, and my thoughts and wishes were that we were going to be able to do this several years ago. And now that we are, or we can move forward and with this another step, I fully support this. And I think, like the coach Bannister mentioned, and I've always said the same thing, that the athletic field is a classroom as well, and to see the conditions that our students have been, play in, and they're gonna have to play in those fields for another couple of years till it gets, we get to that point, but till, this is just a big step in that, so that those students or future students won't have to, and they won't feel embarrassed, actually, quite honestly, when they go to their field to play their whatever sport it is. The ladies playing field hockey, playing lacrosse, all of that. My daughter played at Castle for 4 years, and that is a very very sad state of that athletic field. No matter how much you try to improve the existing grass, but it's constantly used all year long. So just for those reasons, and it brings a sense of pride. And with the parents from the Castle Park community that I've been meeting with, they want site improvements too, and school sites, and I'm with them, and hopefully we'll be able to do some of those as listed here. It's just we can do what we can do, and I think this will level create some equity in terms of the athletic fields in our whole district, and it really needs to be done, and it's quite honestly overdue. And I'm just speaking in support of this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Segura. Vice President Hall.
Thank you, President Solis, and I totally agree with Mr. Segura. It's been a long time that we have been, before we were elected and during this time, we've been really thoughtful and really been listening to our communities across the district. Really, I've been to every school in our district. I know that you other board members have as well. We're very well aware of the differences and the needs. And if we had the resources, we would have rebuilt a lot of schools already. That just is not how it works. You have to do projects. It can't be all at once. You have to do a bit at a time. This is how it works. I mean, it's not unusual for us to have to do smaller projects across several schools in order to get each school where it needs to be. And I look forward to future where we'll have more resources to work on even more projects. Especially, I'm very glad to see that we have a project for Castle Park High and Castle Park Middle and Granger Middle. Excuse me. I know that they have very much needed these projects, as well as Mar Vista Academy. They haven't had a lot of work at those schools, but there's still all the other schools, Chula Vista Middle, Southwest Middle, National City Middle, got some, one new building. They need a lot more work as well. So I think future bond sales are going to happen, and I will support them when they do. I'm very glad, because when I was out visiting schools and I was listening to the community, many of the parents wanted new fields. I know several of the community members and parents of the athletes were really looking for this several years ago. So I'm glad we're finally getting to the point where we can sell a Prop DD, that we've gotten ourselves into this school situation with the leadership we needed to ensure that we are safeguarding the resources that are given to us, and that we are moving forward as we should in order to provide the kind of equity to our schools, that haven't had that kind of resources before. So thank you very much for the leadership. Ms. Quirk, I appreciate everything you and your team are doing, and Dr. Gary, I appreciate your leadership. And I look forward to holding more forums in the future as we try to get more information and more input on future projects. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Hall. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, can I go ahead and make the motion to approve this item?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, you go for it.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Cariaga?
Yes.
Arancibia?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Solis?
Yes.
Tarantino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And, I think with that, we are done. Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening.